You ready to do this, Steve?
Let's do it, Spence. Punch it, Chewie!
Welcome to the Fortress of Nerditude podcast, a safe place to talk about all things in nerd and pop culture. I'm Spencer Stapleton, and my co-pilot, as always, is Steve Madura.
Hey, guys.
We're two best friends that, despite being fathers and husbands, we just refuse to grow up. Thank you for joining us. This is episode number 18. We are legal, Steve.
Legal! You know, I'm always going to now think of Sean Capri's commentary last week about we celebrate every single...
Look at us, guys! We're 18! Woohoo!
Yeah, we did it! All right! Crush a beer can in my head. Boom!
So this is the 18th episode, and this is a special one because it is our movie podcast, our movie club, and we're reviewing Doctor Strange and going to be talking about that. But since it's the movie club, we are joined, as always, by Britta. Britta, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me back, guys.
Always, always. And then, of course, we have a special guest, which we try to get a listener on every month for the podcast when we do the movie club. We are joined by none other than the friend of the show, Peter Christensen. Peter, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. I feel like this is like really formal. Like, hello, how are you?
Pleased to make your acquaintance this fine evening.
So, you're going to be now contestant number 2. Tell us a little about yourself.
I'm a Leo. I like walks on the beach and record ice cream. No, so Peter, as I've said before in other podcasts, is a friend of mine. We used to live in the same congregation in the same area. I don't know, how long has it been, Peter? 5 years?
Yeah, something like that.
5, 7. A long time ago to land far, far away. But anyway, so a dear friend. We love his family, family friends and whatnot. And so Peter definitely shares our affinity for everything in nerd and pop culture. He is well-versed and well-spoken, as we have brought up in past podcasts. He is always one to give a witty criticism, or whippy criticism, a quitty whippicism, whatever. Anyway, good to have you on the show.
Thanks. It's so witty that I could stick up for Avatar and still be invited to be on the show.
That's right.
We actually had you invited before the Avatar thing.
Right.
We thought about pulling that invite back, but...
if Sean Capri was going to be on the show as well, we didn't want to have some kind of like adversarial relationship. It makes it very awkward for everyone. Cricket.
So, Peter, I know you listen, so let's jump into it. We start off each week with kind of getting caught up. Tell everyone who's listening about yourself, you know, who you are, what you do, and go for it, man.
Yeah, so I am a software developer. I live in Seattle area. I lived in Chicago area for a while. That's where I met Steve. Since then, I moved out west. I've got 3 kids. My wife's awesome. I like to watch movies and do nerdy stuff and all that.
So software development, do you work for yourself? Do you work for a company? Can you name said company?
I can name said company. It's Goodreads, which is a reading social network, and it's owned by Amazon. So I am part of the beast that's eating Seattle.
Nice. Goodreads, that's like the website where you go to and you can evaluate different books, correct?
Yeah, you can keep track of which books you're reading and your progress in them. You can review them. You can read other people's reviews and comment and interact around that. There's reading groups, there's challenges, there's author interaction, there's basically all kinds of things related to books and reading.
That's really interesting because I like to listen to a lot of audiobooks. I got on with Audible a little while back, and every time I'm like looking for a new book, if I don't have like something in the hopper as far as the recommendations for friends, I actually go to Goodreads and I'll like look at stuff and see like what people are reviewing. And so it's interesting that you work for them because I never have talked to anyone else about Goodreads outside of my wife.
Yeah, well, there are about 50 million users, so a lot of people use it very heavily, and it's still growing.
So what do you do for them specifically? Like, do Do you work on like bug fixes and like keeping the database going, or kind of what?
Well, I fix lots of bugs, but that's because I write the bugs. But
Okay, yeah.
the team I'm on does additional features around reading. So just this past year, we released a thing that lets you look at the notes and highlights you take in Kindle books. You can view them on Goodreads, and you can share them, and people can comment on them and like them. And it's starting to make a social experience around the actual content of the books, and not just users' reviews and lists of books.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds really interesting. Britta, I just want to point out, if you look behind Peter, he's got some sort of placard that looks like it's Disney themed. I just wanted to point that out because my wife loves all things Disney.
Yep, that's my wife's side of the office, and she couldn't get enough Disney stuff.
Nice. Well, Peter, we're glad you're here with us and joining us for this episode. Britta, how are you? What is new? Like, I don't know, but the listeners don't know, so tell them.
I'm doing good. I don't know what's new. I went and saw the new Beauty and the Beast.
How did you like it?
I have mixed feelings about it.
Tell?
Feel like
without
a lot
spoilers,
of people do.
Of course.
No. Who's going to spoil it?
We're not reviewing that thing.
No, man, that's a new movie.
I'm just saying.
Like, you don't know how that one ends, really? No, it was good. It was interesting because, taking an animated film and then turning it into a live action while using, all the same songs, and then they added in some extra songs, which there's a couple of them that I really like. One of them I didn't care for that much. I don't know. It was interesting. Like, I like Emma Watson as an actress, but she's just not Belle, and they just kind of auto-tuned her a little too much. Like, you could just tell there was a lot of digital manipulation to her singing.
Okay.
'Cause she's not a singer. She's an actress. She's not a singer. So that part of it was a little like, sometimes, but, for the most part, I enjoyed it.
Was it as bad as when like Drew Barrymore tries to sing?
No, gosh, no.
Not that I'm talking bad about Drew Barrymore, but I'm saying like she's obviously not a singer. She's an actress.
No, she's not a singer. No, I mean, it's good. Like, it sounds good. It's just, it's hard because a lot of the other singers that are in the movie with her are actual performing artists, like
Broadway stars. And stuff like
Audra McDonald plays this character that's not really in the animated feature specifically, but she sings a lot in this, and she's a big, huge Broadway star who has this like amazing, like operatic voice. And when she's singing and Emma Watson are singing at the same time, like you just see the difference. You know what I mean? But overall, I actually really enjoyed it. I've still been thinking about it, for the last week and a half since I saw it, and I'm like, I do want to see it again. I did really enjoy it, but it's hard to pin it down because it's just so different.
So,
and the way they did it.
Did they use Steve's favorite line from the movie?
Oh, what's that?
Which is?
Oh, come on, Steve, with the mirror.
Show me the beast. Did they use that?
Yes, they did.
So was it that close to the movie?
Was what?
Was it that close to the movie? I mean, was it kind of?
It really was. Yeah,
okay.
I mean, it was very close. I mean, they changed a few little things, but I did like that they really like fleshed out the characters more in this version. So you get kind of a little bit more backstory-ish for Belle, and you get a lot more backstory and insight into the Beast and how he was before he became a beast and that kind of stuff. And all of the actual, all of the servants that are, turned into magical items. You get like a backstory on a lot of them as well. So it's really interesting, and there's more interrelationships in this one.
Cool.
So I really like that about it. So,
the dish
anyone
runs
who
away
likes
with the
Beauty
spoon.
and the Beast and something like that.
I have a question. I have a question, Britta. A lot of listeners want to know how big is the clef in Gaston's chin, really?
I actually don't remember him having a cleft in this movie.
That's the
but I have to
biggest
say,
line in the movie.
He's way better looking in this movie than he was in the cartoon. The whole time my sister kept leaning over going to me, Gaston's just really hot. She's like, I know he's a jerk, but he's really hot.
But how does his
Not
size
that you
compare
guys
to a
care,
barge?
but
Right, exactly.
Hey, just remember that I'll be saying that when we go see the Baywatch movie, but it won't be about The Rock. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
I love how
I wasn't
Zac
saying it.
Efron.
My sister was saying it.
I love how we're comparing though, like the
actor's
hotness
quite
of like a
good-looking,
cartoon character to like an actual person. We're like, the cartoon
Right.
character wasn't as hot as I thought he was. It
Oh,
wasn't
please.
like Jessica Rabbit hot.
I've heard you guys talk about, the hotness of various cartoon characters.
Chitara.
What?
So,
What? Peter, who's your cartoon crush? Peter, go for it.
I'm gonna have to think about that.
Tila.
This is being recorded for posterity.
This.
I don't know which
like
of those
that.
cartoons are listening. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
That's right. Hanna-Barbera is gonna find you.
You
go
got to keep them separated. All right. Well, sounds good. Britta, thank you. Steve, what is going on, my man?
Well, so I'm on spring break right now. I'm in Daytona.
Woo, spring
Girls
break,
Gone
woo!
Wild. Woo! I'm kidding. No. So I'm actually up in Minnesota visiting my brother and sister-in-law, brother and sister-in-law, my wife's family, and it's awesome. It's a lot of fun. So I'm actually recording from a place that I'm not usually used to. I'm surrounded by like my sister-in-law has like an Etsy company where she makes like these diapers that she sells. I'm not putting a plug in, but I'm just saying she makes like these waterproof diapers and she sells them on Etsy and they're really successful anyway. So I'm surrounded by those because these are like her workspace area. So anyway, look 'em
And
up.
you're wearing headphones that look like the elementary school headphones from like the 1960s.
Okay, so another confession is I did not bring my usual hardware, so I don't have my pop filter, I don't have my usual mic, I'm using my computer mic, so if I sound a little tinty, I'm sorry. Give me the microphone first so I can bust like a bubble. A Compton and Long Beach together, now you know you in trouble, ain't nothing but a G thing, babe. Anyway, so yes, I am using, I had to slip it in there. I am using like Lego headphones and Anyway, so the week has been really good. Anytime that I don't have to work is awesome. So it's been great. My sister has 7 kids and we have 4, and so they all get together well. But I took the kids swimming today, and it was so funny because my brother-in-law was at work, and so it was my wife, my sister-in-law, and 11 children. And so I get all these looks like, nice, man. And I'm like, what are you guys thinking? And we like go out the door and it's like a clown car. It's like, they just keep coming and coming and coming. And people had to like wait on the other side of the door. I'm like, we're almost done. A few more. Just scoot them on through. So
Wow.
Anyway, it's so week has been
Sounds fun.
has been good. Again, we're going to finish up by heading back down towards Chicago from Minneapolis and hit Wisconsin Dells along the way. And my mom has a timeshare that she reserved for us there for a few days, so it should be a lot of fun.
So you're traveling on the road. Are you going to be on the road next week? You're going to be back home by next week.
Back home, yeah, we should be back home by probably Friday. So
it's like what, a 5-6 day trip for you then?
Yeah.
That's not bad.
No, so it's been good. Anytime we can see family, and my wife's family is awesome. I did well there. My in-laws are all great, so
Nice.
we love hanging out. And they're dang good cooks, man. I've been eating so well. Not that I don't eat well. Not that I don't normally well. Whoever's listening, my wife, usually eat well.
Right. Let's see, man. My week's been good. If you're interested, my Nintendo Switch finally came back to me. Nintendo replaced the screen and fixed the dock and sent it back. And so I've got it now. It's under a protective glass case. It's not going to be scratched ever again. But I've been playing Zelda Breath of the Wild like every night. Yeah. And what was it, Britta? We stayed up till like 2:30 in the morning, Saturday morning. Yeah. She stays up with me and she like helps me like find like some of the hidden stuff and will kind of help guide me around the map for some of the harder things. And she's watching it. She's been into it. The kids have been into it. So it's been a nice bonding experience.
Now, did she ever get to actually touch it or play it or breathe on it?
No, of course not. No.
Steve, I'm terrible at video games anyway. I'd much rather watch someone play it who can actually play the game versus me just like dying constantly.
I just love when Spencer's like, we stayed up and watched it. Yeah, she's just sitting there watching you play.
Yeah, but
yeah,
she stayed up till 2:30.
Looking stuff up online. It was fun.
So anyway, I've been doing that. The weather here's been kind of up and down right now. I mean, we're into kind of the spring weather where you get a ton of rain for a few days and then it gets into like the high 60s for like a week. So it's kind of up and down, but we've bought some stuff. We're going to plant some flowers, I think, this weekend in this little flower bed out front. We pulled out some old rose bushes last year. So we did that. Our daycare lady, her kid got sick and had to go to the hospital. So like this last Monday, like a week ago from when we recorded, I actually was home for half a day. Like I was home in the morning with the boys, got up, made blueberry pancakes and bacon, and it was a weird experience, man. I'm not used to being home at like 9 a.m. on a Monday morning making breakfast with my kids. It was different, but it was actually kind of cool. Like I highly recommend just taking a random morning off of work and doing something like that. So that was good. And then I just want to give a big shout out. Sean Capri, who was on our podcast last week, he aired the episode that I was on We the Gamercast. That came out today. That was a lot of fun. I want to apologize for my audio. It was a Skype recorded call and my Wi-Fi was horrible. It wasn't kind of the normal way we do audio. But today, Sean Capri and Bobby Pauls, that do the If We Ran Nintendo podcast that we're friends with, they celebrated their 1-year anniversary, their 52nd episode, and as a big surprise, Josh Stapleton, my brother, set up this whole like operation where people donated money to a PayPal, and we awarded them, or not awarded, it wasn't like a game show, but they were gifted $500 by friends, family, other gamers, random people from the internet to go towards the fund for their baby boy that's coming, for diapers or wipes or whatever, clothes, whatever they need it for. So it's kind of nice. Like I really like seeing stuff like that happen where you have random people coming together to help out other people. It's a kind of a nice thing. And they were super grateful. You guys know Sean's a great guy.
Yes.
And any praise and anything like that, he tries to deflect and, not make a big deal about it because he's a really humble guy and a really great guy. But it was just nice to see him kind of getting a little choked up because he had no idea that had happened. So big shout out to them.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Cool. So otherwise, man, real great week, doing stuff, loving it. And let's get right into it, man. Let's get into my favorite topic. Let's get into some Rebel Intelligence. What do you guys say?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
It's time for some Rebel Intelligence. I always have to let you know, Steve, that many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Rest in peace, you Bothans.
So we are into Rebel Intelligence. Let's kick it off. We're gonna spread the love a little bit. Peter, why don't you start us out, my man?
All right. So this week, the extended trailer for DC's Justice League movie came out. And as I have been doing for the last several DC movies, I find myself giving guarded devil's advocate type feedback to it.
Yep.
It looks visually great. The characters, I think, are really cool. I think that as a trailer, it works. And there's so much stuff that makes me think that it is not going to fix any of the problems that Suicide Squad and Batman v Superman and Man of Steel and the all of the recent DC movies have had. I think it's going to be dreary. I think the story is going to be a slog to get through and confusing. I think that any given 2 minutes of the movie is going to be awesome, but no 30-minute stretch is going to be awesome.
So here's my thing. I watched that as well. It seems to me like, I don't know why, but is Ben Affleck kind of doing the Batman voice when he's Bruce Wayne? He kind of has a little bit of a graveler sound to it and kind of gets it. Just a little bit? Did anyone else pick up on that?
Yeah, a little bit.
I guess, yeah, I was going to say, now that you mention it, I kind of do. Yeah. He, maybe he forgot that he was like, wrong day for film. He's like, no, this is the Bruce Wayne filming day. Dang it. It
seemed like there was that scene where, like the scene in the trailer where he's, I don't know, in Iceland or Finland or somewhere where it's cold and there's ice and water.
Nova Scotia.
And he's like, there was a king tide. And I was like, why does he sound like he's Batman? Like, tell me where the drugs are. I was like, come on, man, you're giving it away.
I think he might be trying to not make it such a crazy difference between conversational speaking voice and angry vigilante voice.
Yeah, okay.
So
I
it's
mean,
the same.
I-
He's doing a voice, and then his bat suit's got some effects on it to make it sound growlier, but it's a growly version of the same voice as opposed to throat cancer and thumbtacks, gargling thumbtacks like
What is the
Christian Bale
national
has.
flower of Finland?
Yeah, because it's true. Christian Bale's Bruce Wayne versus his Batman were night and day. I mean, that's why I always mock it. Tell me where the drugs are. Hi, my name's Bruce Wayne. I mean, it just it didn't seem to mesh very well.
So I think that I hate to just dump on stuff, but the DC movies have not been anywhere near in the same level of enjoyment as the Marvel movies over the last, since the Dark Knight series ended.
Right.
But they're so frustratingly close. Like, I would give them, I don't know, B minus, and overall,
I think they have potential.
Like, with glaring flaws. Sadly, I think that once Zack Snyder stops directing these movies, the DC universe is going to be great. Because Zack Snyder makes stuff visually amazing, story just secondary, and it makes the movies too long, and it makes them just hard to watch. When there's so many other good parts that they should be great.
No, like I agree with Peter. I think that they have all had potential. I mean, even going back to like some of the the Supermans that they made, the more recent ones. Like I'm like, oh man, this is going to be great. This is exciting. Like from my childhood, from the 80s or whatever with Christopher Reeves, I was so hopeful, and then every one of the Superman has just fallen flat, and I've been so disappointed. I hated Batman v Superman. I think this new Wonder Woman looks good, but again, like Peter, I feel like Ike Turner, man. I feel like Tina Turner. I've been hurt before.
You feel like slapping someone?
I said, try the dang cake, woman. No. Anyway, so I've been hurt before, and I don't want to be hurt. I don't want to open my heart up and be hurt again.
What do you think,
Britta? Well, I was just thinking about that when he was talking about the DC movies, and I really have never been into many of those. I mean, I liked kind of some of the Dark Knight series ones, but yeah, the rest of them never really kind of got me like all of the Marvel movies do. But I have to say, and I don't know about this movie. I haven't seen the previews. I don't really know. I kind of am disillusioned with most of that stuff, I guess, so I'm not that interested. But after having seen a few previews for the new Wonder Woman that you mentioned, Steve, like, I'm really excited about that one. Yeah. And I'm really hoping, like, I have hope for that one, because I'm like, we need a really good girl superhero. Like, we need that. Like, 90% of the superheroes we see are men, and I get that. That's the comic books and stuff like that, but I'm just really excited about that one. It looks like, once again, has potential. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's going to be good or not, but it looks good. So I'll probably at least see that one.
But you're in good shape, because the two of the best heroes of the last year were Jyn Erso and Moana. So
that's true.
That's true.
I really want to give Justice League a chance. I really do. But Peter, I'm with you, man. It's guarded optimism. It's cautiousness, because that trailer for Suicide Squad looked so good. I was in hook, line, and sinker, and then I saw it and I was like, man, this thing is a stinker. So Batman v Superman, I was a little more reserved, and I came out of that going, man, there's so much potential, and it seemed like a little whiny, just
Martha,
dark.
Why did you say that name?
Right.
Why did you say that name? I just So I see this, and the trailer looks great. The trailer makes me think that the movie, if this wasn't a DC
and a shout
movie,
out to the DC trailer person, because
yeah,
they make great
because
trailers.
they're good at their job.
They should be directing the friggin' show. One thing I think about this though, I think like less is more, right? You go back to like the Michael Keaton Batman, right? That was like just very bare bones, and it was just good. And then you started to get into like the version with Iceman, and they got all the weird costumes, and everything started to, it was like when you had action heroes and you had just the original He-Man or the original Batman, and they started getting all like the Tartar Control Batman and the the winged Batman and all these like weird versions. It's like merchandising the crap out of just a great story. You have a great story with Superman, you have a great story with Wonder Woman, you have a great story with these the Justice League. Man, I used to watch that stuff when I was a kid, right before Scooby-Doo. And so they have a lot of potential. They just don't have to, I don't know. Just keep it simple.
Well, I think every director wants to put his stamp on it.
That's right.
He wants to put his spin on it, and I get that DC's trying to do what Marvel's doing. I mean, I felt like Justice League was rushed, right? Because you had Man of Steel came out, and they were talking about getting back into the Batman world again and rebooting Batman. And they're like, oh, and Suicide Squad and, this. And so they started like moving up the timelines on the DC stuff because they saw what Marvel was doing. Because Marvel had these solo films. And all of a sudden, boom, you had the Avengers. And I kind of went, yeah, but you got to think you had Iron Man, 1, 2, Thor 1, Captain America 1. I think you had at least 4 or 5 movies prior to the Avengers. Then you had Iron Man 3, and you had Thor 2 and Guardians of the Galaxy, and you've had, another Captain America movie, Winter Soldier, then Avengers. So like they're doing a bunch of other movies, and then they work into a big combined movie. And it feels like they're trying to jump into go back to Batman v Superman. That was already supposed to be a mashup, and they're like, and we're going to put Wonder Woman in here. And we're going to do a cameo where we're going to show you Aquaman and Cyborg and The Flash. And I was like, well, wait a minute. All of a sudden, this is a movie with the entire Justice League in it? Because they're trying to just ramp up because they want to try to do what I think Marvel's doing.
Absolutely. And
I think they're rushing it. And I think they've got... And gosh, I'm really trying not to be negative because I want the best, but I think they've got the wrong person for the job. Zack Snyder's very dark and murdery, and it's just... Anyway, I want to see it. I want it to be good, but I'm also not anticipating it to be that way. So, anyway, moving on. Britta, what do you have for us?
Well, they released a poster for the new Spider-Man movie. I don't know if you guys have seen that. It's kind of a cool poster. I like it.
So this is the one with Spider-Man kind of like lounging with his school jacket on, right?
Yeah, he's like laying on like a wall or something right next to the water. You can see New York behind him. You can see the Avengers building, the Avengers tower behind him. He's got headphones. He's got wearing his Spider-Man costume. Got a school jacket on top of that. Got headphones on that. Like, it's just kind of like, I don't know. I like it because it's kind of just a different look than we usually see Spider-Man. And he's just a teenager hanging out in New York, but he's Spider-Man.
One cool thing I did like about this is that they definitely establish in that poster that this isn't like just Spider-Man in Spider-Man. This is Spider-Man in the Marvel universe as far as the cinematic universe, because you can see the Avengers tower behind them. Exactly.
Which I like that. Which that brings in, when they had the little part of him in Captain America Civil War.
Right.
And obviously, I think we've seen Tony Stark in
the trailer,
one of the previews and the trailer. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I like that it's kind of still keeping in that whole world and keeping kind of everything together.
I want this movie to make so much money that Marvel gets the Fantastic Four back as well.
Right? Please. Can we just say that let's get the Fantastic Four and let's get the X-Men back from Fox and get them back where they belong.
Because of all the Deadpool money.
That's true. Deadpool did kind of screw that over, but...
Well, what's funny about that, though, when you think about like the Fantastic Four movies, right? So you had Chris Evans as Mr.
Human
Flame
Torch.
or what? Yeah, Human Torch.
Johnny
And
Storm, yeah.
He's also Captain America. How's that going to work?
Awesomely. Yeah. He'll do it.
Ben Affleck was Daredevil and Batman.
Yeah. Anyway, gosh, can it be May already? And then July.
Seriously.
I mean, I was just like, can we get to Guardians of the Galaxy? Can we get to Spider-Man? Can we get to Thor Ragnarok? I mean, just let's do this. Anyway. So here's something I love, kind of the indie sci-fi movies, especially stuff from the early 80s. I think I've thoroughly established my love of the first Terminator movie on multiple occasions with pretty much everyone I meet. Escape from New York, the original John Carpenter film from like 81 with Kurt Russell as Snake Plissken. They're going to remake that movie. and it looks like it's not completely confirmed, but it looks like Robert Rodriguez is going to be the director. He did the El Mariachi, Desperado, Once Upon a Time in Mexico kind of trilogy.
Great movies.
He also did like family movies like Spy Kids, Shark Boy and Lava Girl, Machete. He did Grindhouse. He co-directed Sin City. So he's very like visually, he's like a very visual director. And so I like that when I heard that, because I think if there's a story that's kind of like older, that's kind of sci-fi, Escape from New York is a really good idea. We're in the future, we take Manhattan, we make Manhattan a prison, we steal it off from the rest of the United States, and that's where we send our prisoners. And then the president's plane, Air Force One, ends up going down, and they send in Snake Plissken, an ex-military guy, to retrieve the president. And if he can retrieve the president and get out, he gets a pardon because apparently he's got some crimes in his past and whatnot. It's a really cool movie, the old one, but it definitely could use a script treatment, and it could use updating. That would be something I would definitely go see again if this thing happens, which it looks like it will. You guys ever see the Escape from New York movie or Escape from LA, the
Kurt
sequel?
Russell?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. After Big Trouble in Little China, he had me at hello.
Yeah, what do you think, Steve? You on board with a remake of Escape from New York?
I mean, I don't know. I think the first ones were fun. They're kind of a cheesy. They kind of seem like a poor man's version of like a Terminator or whatnot. But yeah, I mean, I think they were. I think it's a good story. And again, just like the DC conversation has potential. So I'd give it a shot. Peter, what about you?
I never saw Escape from New York, so.
You didn't miss much. I mean, it's fun. Like I said.
Do we think it'll be better than a remake of Total Recall? Because that didn't turn out so well.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. Here's the thing. It's one of those movies where like the story alone is just a really kind of cool idea and a good story. But like, I don't know that I would recommend you going and watching the film now because it looks really, really dated.
Oh,
and so it'd be hard to watch.
Yeah, don't go back and watch the first one. I mean, it was not that good. It was fine enough.
Although Kurt Russell's hair in the movie is pretty sweet.
It is pretty sweet.
So that kind of balances my argument out. I don't know. I'm a man of two minds apparently.
Tango and Cash.
Yeah. All right, Steve, what do you got for us, my man?
So the Han Solo kind of standalone film that's upcoming. CEO of Disney kind of made some references to
Bob Iger.
Bob Iger, you got it. Made some references in a recent business and tech summit for USC, and he explained some things that we had not known before. So, I think we all knew this is, for those that don't know, this is going to be kind of the backstory, the origin story of Han Solo. It's going to follow him from ages 18 to 24, and while I think most of us knew, this is going to, explain kind of how he found the Falcon or how he got the Falcon, when he met Chewie. It's also going to tell us how he got his name. And I think most people have always assumed that his last name was given as a way to describe his character, that he's kind of a loner, until he kind of teamed up with the rebellion. But I think there might be a little bit of a different twist on that. So that's kind of a little nugget that was released through this summit, and just makes us even more titillated to see it. So,
he's actually just a widely renowned tenor.
That's right, exactly. He and Pavarotti go around the galaxy.
He hangs out with people all the time, but he's got a beautiful voice.
We knew from the original trilogy that he actually won the Falcon off of Lando in a card game, a game of Sabacc. So we know Lando's in this movie. Donald Glover's been casted as him. Right. So I'm wondering, do we actually see that happen?
They don't reveal that, but I would assume that's got to be
like a 30-minute long gambling scene, like Casino Royale.
Exactly. Right. Somebody's eye starts bleeding. You would
think as this is some sort of origin story, they'd have some of those things you've heard about kind of in there.
As long as Lando's wearing a sweet cape, I'm okay.
Yeah. I didn't realize that Woody Harrelson was going to be in the movie. I didn't know that. So, yeah,
he actually was just on Jimmy Fallon, I think, a few nights ago, maybe, and like Jimmy Fallon was trying to press him for a few details, and he was basically like, I'm kind of a mentor to Han.
Right. He's playing the young Chewbacca, right?
That's all I can say, yeah. Beyond Chewbacca, before the fur. I don't know what that would be, but...
Behind the scenes VH1 movie, like... And after that, Def Leppard.
Nice. So one last thing I want to get to. Nintendo has come out... Now, I'm going to say this. I love the bravado of Nintendo. I love this company. They think the world of themselves at times. They make some blunders, but on the success of the Nintendo Switch right now, Nintendo thinks, and has said publicly, they think they can sell 110 million units over the lifetime of the console. Now, if it does that, it's going to edge out the Wii as the number 5 in the number 5 spot of all-time console sales. And just to kind of give you some information, they sold 1.5 million units inside the first 2 weeks, and I think they said they were shooting for about 2 million in production on the first run. They went so fast, they were pretty much all pre-ordered, that they doubled production. More consoles actually hit this weekend. My brother Josh actually went to a Toys R Us at like 4 a.m. and stood out there until like 10 o'clock when they opened the doors to get a second one so he could give it to our sister that was trying to get one. And they kind of helped him get his, so he decided to stand out there for them. So Nintendo's, I mean, they're doing well. They're selling. I mean, they completely sell out every single time they release more. So they're thinking 110 million. What do you think, Steve? Is that too aggressive, or do you think that's legitimately a possibility?
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's a little aggressive. I think that, as we've talked in the past, that the Wii, I think, just had more kind of global appetite, I guess. I don't know. Like we talked about, that the grandmothers were buying it for their grandkids to come by, and it was kind of a very universal, all-inclusive, get the family together type of thing, where I just, my sense is, and again, you own one, I don't, that the Switch still is more gamer centric as opposed to just kind of like everybody and their grandma centric.
I'll disagree, and I'll tell you why.
Go for it.
The big selling point of this is that it can be mobile, or it can be docked in at home, right? So they're trying to hit two markets, because the Nintendo sells those 3DSs, they're completely mobile one,
right,
and they sell tons of those things. I mean, they sell them like crazy.
Yeah.
But the nice thing is that with the Switch, you can take those Joy-Cons, the controllers, off it, and you can hand one to a friend. So you can both either turn them sideways and play, or there's games that are interactive. So it's kind of like hitting the interactivity of what the Wii did, like bringing people together to do motion-based gaming. So it still has that, but then it also has the more traditional console feel or mobile feel as well.
Well, all their commercials, you can see they're trying to make it look like it's a party console like the Wii was, They
Right.
always show people interacting, playing together, pulling the things off, putting them back on, handing them here, play a game together, like they're making it, they're trying to advertise like it is kind of like a Wii, sort of, like the new sort of party console.
I guess I don't disagree with you, Steve, that I think maybe the estimate is a little aggressive, but maybe I just disagree with maybe your reasoning why you think it's aggressive, if that makes sense. I mean, not to split hairs completely here, but I just think they're trying something, and they're selling really well, and if demand stays up, I mean, they may get up there. What do you think, Peter?
I think that the social sharing features and the party atmosphere kind of stuff, I think that will be very effective cover fire for people to purchase it. I think it'll get into a lot more households, because whoever is wanting it can say, look, we can play it together, we can take it on the go, we can do all this.
Like how Spencer said that to me?
Right.
Hey, you're the navigator, you're the co-pilot,
That's
right?
how he got one?
Yeah, I think that plus Nintendo's brand will sell more of these than a similarly equipped console without that marketing, even though in practice it's going to be people playing it on a commute or plugged into their TV at home by themselves.
Right. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Here's my question. So if the Wii is the number 5
Right. What are the other spots?
most sold console, what's 1 through 4? Do you know?
Oh, so
The NES?
yeah,
Are you
of
prepared
course.
for that question?
You asked me the question to which I totally have an answer.
Look it up fast. Hurry, quick.
Let's talk amongst
Top
ourselves.
Google.
Console
Google
sales
to the rescue.
numbers.
I'm going to say the NES.
Well, I'm just curious. I just
The
want to
NES has
compare,
gotta be-
you know, to like.
And Google says.
All right, we've got
What does everyone
PlayStation 2,
think?
PlayStation 2, Nintendo DS, Game Boy/Game Boy Color, PlayStation, and then Wii.
What? The NES? The NES is even in there? Oh my gosh.
The Nintendo Entertainment System only sold 62 million.
Dang it.
Yep.
PlayStation 2
Yeah.
sold over 155 million.
155, yeah. DS 154. I mean, just a million short of that. That's pretty awesome.
And those are still selling. People still buy those things.
Yep. So yeah, PlayStation 2, Nintendo DS, Game Boy Color, PlayStation, Wii, and then Xbox 360. And like, it's interesting. Like, you look at the top like 5, they're all. I mean, except for the top 2, like PlayStation 2 and Nintendo DS. Like 3, 4, and 5 are, I mean, all within just a few million of each other almost. It seems like, and then it drops down like 20 million, and then further on down.
That shows some modesty on Nintendo's part that they said, "Oh, we'll sell 101 million and pass the Wii for 5th place." Not we'll sell 102 million and pass the PlayStation for 4th place.
Right. Yeah, that's
Because that's not really a
interesting.
stretch. We couldn't possibly sell that 102nd million unit.
Maybe it's like a Japanese thing, like a culture thing. Like they don't want to like show up their another company in another game company in the same country. I don't know. I have no clue. I'm just maybe. Who knows?
Maybe they just don't want to get Sony mad when they're working on the next PlayStation.
Right?
Like, oh yeah, who's going to knock off who? Huh?
Exactly. You don't want to. You don't want to push a lion into a corner, man.
They don't want to wake a sleeping giant.
Ooh, nice reference. Pearl Harbor, Ben Affleck. Let's stop this conversation.
Yes, please.
All roads lead to Ben Affleck. Sorry, Steve.
Oh no, he's replaced Kevin Bacon from 6 Degrees of Separation. What?
Not 6
Nightmares
degrees of
be-
bacon, 6 degrees of Batfleck.
Batfleck.
So, all right, let's move on outside of Rebel Intelligence. I want to hit this up. We want followers. We want people to listen to us. We want people to get us in your ears weekly. If you want to follow us on social media, we're on Twitter at Fort of Nerd. You can always reach us on Facebook, which is facebook.com/Fort of Nerd. Or you can do like Peter likes to do. You can always email us for the long form answer in triplicate. And that is our email, fortofnerd @gmail.com. Steve, we want listeners. So what can our listeners that currently subscribe do to help us out?
Current listeners that subscribe, whether on long or short form, can rate us on iTunes, so the Fortress of Nerditude is not as hard to get as 5 minutes of playtime for Britta on the Switch.
Very, very nice. Very nice. So last week we had a wonderful conversation with Sean Capri, and we got into this conversation about creativity and, things that we do to be creative. And so that was our question this week, is what is your creative outlet? And Steve, I remember that we didn't actually answer it. So we're going to go around the 4 of us here and we'll talk about what we do for our creativity and what our outlet is. And then we're going to read some of the responses we got. So let's start with Britta. Britta, what do you do? What's your creative outlet?
Well, when I get a chance, I'm going to sound like an old lady now, but when I get a chance, I really like to knit. Don't laugh, Steve. Jeez.
Could I get an Afghan?
This is a safe place. This is a safe
Yeah, it
place.
is a safe place. That's right.
No, but Spencer will attest this. I make some fairly pretty nice looking things. Like I've made stockings for our whole family that are actually,
That is
I
awesome.
think, very nice.
Are we talking like
and
actual
I've made
like,
them
wearable
for
socks, or are we talking like Christmas?
no,
stockings?
Christmas stockings.
Just making sure.
Sorry, Christmas stockings. I can make wearable socks as well. I mean,
Respect.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty talented. I can do a lot of things. So super humble.
Nice.
But yeah, so I like to do that kind of thing. I've made stockings for our family. I've made stockings for my parents, and making some currently for my sister and her husband and their new little baby. And for a while, I was making a bunch of random stuff and selling them at, craft fairs and stuff like that, which was fun, but it was a lot of work, and I have children now, so I don't have that kind of time. So
You got to outsource that stuff to the Orient.
yes, there you go.
Peter, what about
But
you?
then I don't get the joy.
So I am computer programmer by day, and by night I am also a computer programmer. But there are so many different parts of it, nobody can learn it all, so I'm always looking for something new to read about or play with or practice. And right now I've started learning iOS programming, so making apps for iPhones and stuff.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
I want to ask a question, Peter, and I don't want to broach any confidences or anything like that. So if I will talk very high level, but I know at one point you were conceptualizing a game. I don't want to bring it up again. I don't want to mention it by or by concept or anything. But whatever came of that?
That has long since been abandoned.
Okay.
So the idea for the game was it was a collectible trading card game like Pokemon or Magic the Gathering, but it would have heroes of science and technology and invention, and you would play the game that way. And I did a lot of the coding for playing it, and I partnered with another person to help with the website for it, and that partnership didn't end up working out. And I realized that it was going to take a lot more time to develop the actual playing of the game, as well as a lot of money for artwork to go in it, because you can only have so many different stick figure scientists before it gets boring.
Well, I want to say on that because I remember, we used to ride the train together downtown Chicago, and Peter was still in the kind of conceptualizing phase, and he had retained an artist, as I recall. He'd commissioned an artist to start, some of the artwork for the cards, and the ones that you'd done were really cool. Some really cool art, and it actually, oddly enough, and ironically enough, yesterday I was playing a game called Galaxy something. I don't know what it is. It's got crazy rules and all this stuff, but I was playing with my brother-in-law, and all of these cards had this really cool art on it, all very different. You could tell it was a bunch of different artists that had been commissioned to do it, but it made me think of your game, and I wanted to bring it up on the call or on the podcast today. So
yeah, it was a cool idea, but it was way too much work for one person doing in their spare time while they had a job and a family, etc.
Yeah,
Sure.
Creative guy though. Don't let Peter fool you, man. Creative guy.
All right, Steve, what about you, my man?
Oh, well, this podcast, this is my creative outlet. This is the spigot that I unleashed. No. I would say that if I had to choose one, I couldn't, so I'll choose two. I like to play the guitar, and I used it as a younger man with more hair to woo the ladies. My go-to was a little Wonderful Tonight, and then I'd say, baby, could you put this back for me? And I'd give her the guitar, and she'd go and open the case, and in the guitar case would be a dozen roses, and she'd be like, oh! And then the deal was sealed. But the other thing that I love to do is...
by the way, I love listening
Guys
to
are
you
ridiculous.
tell me this story. I mean, you're telling our listeners, but I'm listening to this, I'm going, yep, I know that move. I've seen you execute that move probably 100 times.
I wrote the book, man. You got the second edition.
Suppose I thought that was your song that you used.
Oh,
right.
He used it. I used it. Everyone we knew used it.
It was just the song, huh?
Steve, did you have a dozen plastic roses so that you could reuse it?
I sprayed them with some kind of rose scent. I'm like, baby, could you just put them back after you're done smelling them? It's all good.
That's fine.
Can't actually keep them.
Yeah, right. I took them from a gravesite. Anyway. Veterans Day, you make out like a bandit. Anyway.
Steve,
so,
not the troops.
I shouldn't
Don't
have gone
steal
there.
from the troops.
I shouldn't have gone there. I pushed the envelope on that one.
How does she feel, though, when you pulled up next to the cemetery and got out to go run and grab the flowers and come back? How
Just
does
keep
she
the car
feel then?
running, baby. I'll be back in 5 minutes.
I'm gonna go pick some wildflowers for you.
The fact she still married you, that's awesome.
I will tell her we didn't record this week. Anyway, so the second thing that I really like to do, and I don't profess to be really good at it, but I really like to cook. I like to just go like on allrecipes.com and then like find a recipe that has like 3,000, thumbs up, 5 stars, and then kind of tweak it a little bit and just have fun with it. And like I said, I'm not a great chef, but I love to cook, and I love to get my kids cooking as well. It's one thing that's just really fun to do, and they have now become emboldened and empowered to cook themselves, though their repertoire is somewhat limited, but they love making, and I know this is totally like white trash ghetto, but egg toast. Do you guys ever make where you butter the bread and you take like a cup and you cut out the middle with a little circle?
Oh yeah.
And you crack the egg. Yeah. So
we always.
Oh, go ahead, Brie.
We called those like a frog in the hole or something like that.
Funny,
I can't remember. My mom used to make them growing up all the time.
Everybody has like a different name for like egg toast, frog in the hole,
right?
Like eye of the needle, like sunny side, whatever. But my kids.
I call it the Eye of Mordor.
Put the ring on. But my kids have learned how to make these, and so they make them like all the bloody. Their cholesterol must be sky high because every time they want to make me one, they want to like make the neighbors some. They're like orange whip, 3 orange whips. So anyway, cooking and guitar, not in that order.
So
what about you, Spence?
Obviously, the podcast is a big one. I mean, it's a creative outlet. We get a chance to talk and be goofy and stuff. And but one thing I really enjoy doing is I love like grilling and barbecuing. So it's kind of cooking, but it's more on the
manly
meat
side
and being outside. I try to make up. I don't really do. What's the word I'm looking for? Like, I don't use like bottled marinades much anymore. Occasionally I will if I need something fast, but like I like to make my own marinades and mix spices together and kind of come up with something, and I do it by smell. And so that's one of the things that's kind of creative. And the other thing I wanted to bring up, and I
have to vouch for that real fast, that your marinades are delicious. Every time he makes up a new one, I'm like, what'd you put it in? He's like, I don't know, some stuff. And I'm like, dang, it was so good. I want to know.
Yeah. I don't have recipes. It's cooking like your grandmother would do, right? She's like, you just take a pinch of this and a dash of this and a cup of that and a handful of this, and you're like, wait, I'm trying to writing it down, and it's just not working. And anyway, that's how I grill. The other thing, I'm not an expert at it. I don't profess to be, but and it's been a little while since was more active doing this. But magic tricks, like I enjoy doing magic. And my niece Natalie, every year on her birthday, has me come over and put on a little magic show for her. Do some card tricks and some tricks with light manipulation and ropes and whatnot. I really dig that because there's something about people doing something for people and creating something that you create this illusion, and they think they see what they see or they don't, and everyone just has a good time, and I like that. So.
I also think Natalie likes that because you always end in a big bowl of candy for her.
That's true. There is a big fire effect and it ends in candy or a birthday cake or whatever. So that could be.
I got to give a shout out to Spence on this, and I usually don't like to inflate any egos, whatnot, but I will give a shout out here. There was a time, so we were at college, and we took these girls to a drive-in movie. It was a double feature, and it was like it was like October, but in Idaho, October is like February anywhere else. It was like snow, and just, as I recall, we actually brought our own couch in the back of a pickup, put the thing, and we actually fell asleep during the second movie, and we woke up and there was like half a foot of snow that had fallen. We're like, what the heck? Anyway,
I remember that.
During that night, he brought like this Bunsen burner that he made in like Boy Scouts or whatever. He had like this weird like makeshift grill, and he grilled these steaks, and it must have taken like 3 hours or something like that. And it was in the darkness of night. All he had was like a little flashlight because we didn't have cell phones back then, and they were the best steaks I've ever had. Like, they were so good. And he made them over like this, like, I don't know, it was like I think it was a Bunsen burner or some kind of like butane.
Low and slow. That's always the trick. Low and slow.
There's so many applications. But yeah, so anyway, great steaks. He is a master griller.
Well, thank you. I'm humble about it. I just try to make something that's edible, and if it turns out better than that, well then all right.
All right.
So let's move on. Let's go over to Facebook. Let's see what some of our listeners had to say. Eric Gifford, my brother-in-law and Britta's actual brother, says, my infrequent blog of reviews. That's called Only the Good Stuff. You can find it at ericsgoodstuff.blogspot.com. He also says he just joined the staff of atu2.com, the best U2 fan site on the web. He's a big U2 fan, and so he's, I don't know, a moderator over there or something.
That's cool.
So
He's probably contributing articles and writing stuff or something like that.
Yeah,
is my guess.
that could be. Tim Both on Facebook said,
What's
cook.
up, Tim?
He enjoys cooking for his creative outlet, much like you, Steve.
He is a good cook. Tim, shout out to Tim Both. I have had many of his delicacies, and he is a good cook.
Going over to Twitter, Bobby Pauls, what's up, Bobby? The Nintendo Guru at Nintendo Gurus.
Hey, Bobby.
On Twitter says, I like to draw when I can. I find that when I get lost in my picture, my mind is relaxed. And he says, I used to draw comic strips. And I asked him if he had anything he could show me, because I was just kind of curious. And he ended up tossing up a video he used to have up on YouTube showing kind of this drawing process. He showed me this little picture of a character from the PS4 game Stick It to the Man, and he had drawn that. And then he also, a little bit later on, showed some pictures of Batman that he had drawn when he was in high school. And I know Bobby's a big Batman fan. Really good stuff. Like, that's awesome. Go on Twitter and you can find that conversation. You can see those drawings from Bobby.
That's cool.
Really, really cool. Adam Leonhardt at The Art of Adam L says, drawing, writing, animating, composing, and playing music. I pretty much have to be creating nonstop or my head will blow up. So
keep creating.
Yeah. Keep drawing, man. That's going to make a mess all over the place otherwise. I really like that, but when he put that, I had this vision of like the Running Man, the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, with like a collar around his neck with explosives. Like, if he doesn't keep creating, his head's going to blow up.
I was totally thinking like Pulp Fiction in the back seat when he's all like, hey, he's like, oh, we got to call the cleaner.
Johnny Casino at Johnny_Casino says, podcasting, and podcasting.
Nice.
Johnny's got a few different podcasts, Generational Gamer, Shelved and Forgotten. He's been a frequent guest in a number of podcasts. So, that's a great answer. We love that one. Let's see. Nathan Thomas at Voiced by Nathan says, I love playing video games and watching movies/TV, but my creative outlet is podcasting on at Entertaining Pod and at PSVG #Star Wars. So,
okay.
Once again, another podcaster, good friend. John at Sir John 11
What
says,
up, John?
shopping for something hard to find and then finding and buying it. I gotta agree, like, there's something satisfying about that, and you could probably get really creative with, trying to find hard to acquire items.
Was he talking like antiques, or is he talking like Christmas gifts, or what is he talking about?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if he's talking antiques, but you know what I'm talking about? Like when you're trying to hunt down, like there's like that one thing, like a game of Fireball Island, and you're trying to find it, and so like you're having to get creative on like how to kind of come up with it, maybe piece by piece, or
No, you brought it. You brought it home to me. Now I get it. Mm-hmm.
See what I'm saying? And he's able to find it. Like, that's creative for him. It's an outlet he likes. I like that.
He does know about Amazon, though, right? I'm just saying.
Right. Or eBay.
Right.
The Nerd Father at dspin67 says, 3D modeling. That's my true passion.
Cool.
I'm modeling a sofa and pillows, part of a living room scene I'm working on. And I know he does 3D modeling. He's been doing that for quite a long time.
What up, Nerd Dad?
So, yeah, the Nerd Father. Anyway, some great responses. We know there's a lot more out of there. Really funny. I want to say real quick, I want to apologize to our buddy Bryce Jolly, a good friend of ours from the old days. Bryce always sends me a response the day after we record. And so after we recorded last week, he sent me the thing about his lightsaber color, and a few weeks ago, the same thing. So I know that tomorrow I'm probably going to get a response from Bryce about what his creative outlet is. So I'll read it and I'll think that's awesome, but I got to send him a reminder or something.
What was his lightsaber color?
Oh, let me see here. It was on the email. He actually went long form. He's the first person other than Peter to go long form on it. So just real quick, he said, and it says, so if this answer is too late, I'm sorry once again. I need a fail-safe method to assure that my answers are questions before the deadline, like something with syncing my iPod shuffle. But he says that Steve thinks the black lightsaber is a bad idea. Because there was already a black saber in some Star Wars canon in the Clone Wars series. The ghost sabers and the people who wielded them awesome. He said he'd probably go Samuel L. Jackson, like a pastel, maybe a brown, just to stand out, something multicolor.
Something in time for Easter.
Yeah. So, anyway, and then he also wanted to mention The Last Jedi in Spanish is actually published as Los Ultimos Jedi, which means the Jedi's plural in the title. And we could do a whole podcast on just the fact that Jedi is plural and it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be Rey or Luke. But anyway, so real funny. I mean, I know it doesn't go into the answer to the question for creativity, but he's a day late and $1 short, and I felt really bad. So anyway, thank you, everyone. We love hearing from you. We love your interaction. Keep it up. We really appreciate that. You're a great part of the show, and we look forward to it every single week.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, guys, this is the movie club, so let's talk about it. The movie this month was Doctor Strange, and just jumping right into this thing, here's my first question, and let's go over to Peter first. Peter, Doctor Strange, was this a character in a comic book you had read previous, or was the movie your first entry into the Doctor Strange world?
So I only had a short time, maybe a year and a half, when I read a lot of comic books. And that was when I was in like a freshman, sophomore in high school. So there was a lot of comic history that I missed out on. And Doctor Strange was, I don't think I ever saw him in a comic book. But I also collected the Marvel trading cards. And so I knew a little bit about a lot of characters. And I always thought Doctor Strange was really cool. I liked, his big cape and his magic using, and the fact that he was as powerful or more powerful than the superheroes. So I had affection for Doctor Strange, but not really any familiarity with him. And I was going in wanting to like it for that reason.
Okay, what about you, Britta?
Yeah, I have when I heard Doctor Strange was coming out, I was like, what is that? I have no idea, because I just had never heard of him before, and so I had no preconceived notions, no idea what he was, what powers there were, like anything about the world that he inhabits and all that kind of stuff. So this was all brand new to me and just, completely different for me.
Oh, I just remembered that Marvel made some pretty lousy quality cartoons as movies like 12 years ago. Yep. And I remember renting that from Blockbuster and so like, oh, Doctor Strange, cool. And just, they were so bad that I didn't even watch the whole thing. But I didn't hold that against Doctor Strange.
Okay. What about you, Steve?
Yeah, totally new for me as well. So I'm with Britta. I really didn't have anything with the story from previous encounters. So, but I actually kind of appreciated that. I appreciated going into the movie, not really knowing anything, what to expect, whatnot. Whereas, with a Superman, a Batman, the usual suspects, you kind of have an idea. So it was, I think I enjoyed it maybe even a little bit more for that reason.
I agree with you.
I'm like all of you guys. It was, Doctor Strange was never really on my radar as a kid. I mean, I was into Spider-Man and Incredible Hulk and Batman and Superman and, X-Men and that sort of thing. Kind of the main listers, the A team, but and I was also into the A team. Different topic though. But so I went in once again with like no expectations, except for the expectation that this is a Marvel movie, and Marvel, in my opinion, since the start of Iron Man through everything else they've done, have not made a movie in my eyes that has fallen down or been a bad movie. So didn't really have any expectations there as far as that. But once again, in my opinion, Marvel hits it out of the park. If you didn't have a knowledge of the character, they set it up in a way that it's not going to feel like this is going to take forever to get backstory. It's get you in, get you invested into the character, invested into the thing, and let the movie speak for itself.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. Now, let me ask you a question. Do you feel at any point that this movie deviated from kind of the Marvel brand? And when I say that, before you answer, if this was a standalone movie, outside of kind of the I guess the Marvel universe, I don't know how to do that, but would you kind of pair it with a Captain America or a Thor or an Iron Man, just based on just the movie itself cinematically and story and everything?
So this is interesting because this was kind of what I was going to bring up next, and I think you're kind of getting to the point I was thinking of, is that cinematically this feels different. At least it did to me. But there's a reason for that. And in Iron Man and in Captain America, you've got characters that are grounded here on Earth, and it's all about these powers that they have, whether it's, an enhanced power or something, with a machine or whatnot. In Thor, that's still starting to get in a little more into like mythology and the Norse mythology, but it's still kind of based here, and it's about physical strength and kind of human things. In the Avengers, they hit briefly on the fact that there's this ability to open up a portal outside of this world and get in the Chitauri, right? So these aliens. Mm-hmm. So, but this is still kind of based around here, around physicality. In Guardians of the Galaxy, we're now introducing a larger portion of the Marvel Cinematic Universe where we have outer space, and we're, people that are living on other planets and kind of interstellar travel and all this. Doctor Strange introduces magic into the Marvel Universe, which all of this stuff in the comics is all over the place, and it intermingles and commingles right, left, and center. But they had to do it in a way that they're going to introduce magic and a magic system into the Marvel Universe, but not have it look like it's just stepping on the toes of everything else and try to show that it coexists. But it's Steve, it's like it's like Stranger Things. It's like the Upside Down. It's the same part of the coin, but just a different side of it, and a side we're not used to seeing. So it did feel to me different, but I think it was trying to do that because it was literally trying to say, we need to introduce this whole other side of the Marvel Universe, because all that's got to tie in for some of the greater stories we're trying to tell. That's my take on it. What about you, Peter?
So, I thought the visuals of it were very, very distinctive. And I think it's going to be memorable for that reason, with the way they would bend space and time and have the fractal world and have the city falling over. It was striking like an extension of how people felt when they first saw
Inception.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And I thought it was super original, and then I watched Ant-Man this past week for the first time, and there was that same there was a few scenes with that same heavy CG fractal trippiness to it, and I thought, okay,
right.
This was the
when he goes into the
this was the audition to make the trippy Doctor Strange world.
Right. Absolutely.
My reaction when I came out of seeing Doctor Strange the first time, I saw it twice in the theater, was,
nice.
Oh, this movie is Iron Man, but on mushrooms.
That's right.
And then the wonderful people at the Honest Trailers YouTube channel, they made the same joke, but it was Iron Man on weed, and they went through and outlined all of the ways that this is exactly like Iron Man, and they're not kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I warn anyone who hasn't seen it that may suffer from epilepsy: do not watch that. My gosh, when the Master Sorcerer is throwing him through different dimensions, I was like, I had to turn away. I'm like, I'm going to get nausea.
Oh, for real. The first time I saw it, I was going to go to the movie by myself, and then one of my friends decided to come with me, and so we had to switch seats. I ended up in the very, very front row of the theater.
Good golly.
Which is never good, but in a movie like this, like, we're staring up. Luckily, we were in the recliner seat, so it made it a little bit easier, but, like, just watching some of those scenes just go by, and, like, the way everything was turning, and I was like, holy cow, I have no idea what's going on. Like, I can't focus on any one thing. So it was a lot better when I was able to watch it, you know, the second time at home and kind of get an overall better view of everything.
It's a rare movie that I was disappointed I didn't get to see in 3D.
That's true.
Really?
Right.
That's true.
Just because so much of the effects were completely divorced from three-dimensional reality that it would have been interesting to see how they did it. And it's not like there was no cut and paste lousy 3D job possible because there wasn't even a reality to work with. So it would have been just all, you know, computer graphics nerds dreaming for decades about what could I do if somebody gave me $100 million to do this shot. And
Right.
I think it would have been great.
Yeah, I bet that might have been cool.
You know, isn't it always kind of a disappointing thing though when you go to a 3D movie and there's like two scenes that like you see something come out like a balloon or a frisbee or a hoof or a whatever, and like that's it. And you're like, okay, I see. They shot their wad and they, you know, on that scene, and that's all I'm gonna get.
I found that 3D for me, it's much more effective receding into the distance. So
Then
any
yeah, right.
like that was what I'm not. I promise I talk about stuff besides Avatar, but the depth of the world, the distance to the floating mountains and stuff, that was way better than some glowing blue dragonfly flying out.
Jaws 4.
Captain
There was
EO.
one scene. Again, I didn't see it in 3D, but I wish I would have. Is in the movie Tangled, where near the end they float out on their boat, and people on the mountain they're releasing floating lanterns up into the sky.
Right.
And you see this mountain in the background glowing in the light, and there's hundreds of lanterns floating around. And I thought, oh, this would have been perfect if I was watching it in 3D. Depth works way better than somebody throwing a yo-yo that comes out at you and then zooms back in.
Right.
Yeah, I hate that stuff. Plus, it gives me it just gives me a headache. So I won't, and I don't. Gosh, movie ticket prices, and I'm not trying to sound like an old man, but movie ticket prices have gone up, and I'm okay with that. But like, don't freaking gouge me another $5 to give me a headache in 3D. No, thank you.
and lice. My gosh, they say they clean them. They don't clean them. They don't clean them.
Man, those things for us come in like brand new plastic bags. They're new every time. So where are you going that you got to worry about lice on your glasses
that fell off the back of a truck, Steve.
Exactly. I pay for the original, then I go through the trash, and then I go to the 3D. I'm kidding. I don't do that anymore.
By the way, 3D glasses would look great with those headphones you're wearing right now. Just saying. Just a little callback.
You don't need earpieces. You can just snap them into the Lego thing on the side.
That's right. I'd look like the gay guy from Mannequin. You guys remember that? He had all these crazy weird glasses, like Elton John.
Yes, I do remember that movie. So Doctor Strange. Let's a quick synopsis because we're not really I don't really want to get heavy into the plot because we don't want to spoil it because there could be someone somewhere who hasn't seen this
in Tibet,
but. Stephen Strange, in the movie, Stephen Strange is a surgeon, kind of a hotshot surgeon. He's being featured in magazines and TV shows and only does high-profile stuff. Gets in a car accident, injures his hands, isn't able to perform surgery anymore, so he goes and he looks for an answer. And he can't find it in normal Western medicine, so he goes to Eastern medicine and ends up going to Nepal and finds this place called Kamartaj and meets the Sorcerer Supreme, who introduces him to this concept that there's real magic in the world, and it's, science, but it's magic, and it's things that you've never seen before, and that's kind of how he gets introduced to it. But then the side story to that sets up the action for the film is that there's a group of former Kamartaj students who have stolen a sacred incantation that's supposed to bring back a
Supposed to give them eternal life,
Yeah,
basically.
it gives them eternal life, but it brings back some sort of a demon into our realm. And the Sorcerer Supreme, with the help of Doctor Strange, are trying to stop this from happening. That's the nuts and bolts of the movie, right? So in this, we've got an origin story. Did you guys feel that the origin story, like the origin portion, the first act went on too long? Or did you feel it was pretty good pacing as far as like, let's get into the action? Steve?
I thought it was good. Again, because I didn't know Doctor Strange and I knew that it wasn't like a superhero-esque, like the traditional. I expected that there would be a little bit more of a kind of a runway, a backstory into him becoming Doctor Strange. So no, I thought it was a good balance for me.
What about you, Britta?
Yeah, I thought it was. I was actually thinking about this earlier today. That I thought it was a good pace because they introduce you to the character. They show you all the stuff, his arrogance and all this kind of stuff, and basically, and like you're saying before, it's a lot like Iron Man, but at least for me, like, you don't like the guy. He's not a nice guy. He doesn't do surgery or whatever to help other people. It's just for his own prestige and to make himself look good and build up his reputation. So you just don't like him. And then it quickly gets into, his accident that he has. He can't use his hands. And then he goes to find Kamartaj and gets into, kind of the
Hogwarts.
rest of the story.
You're a wizard, Harry! What about you, Peter?
I noticed in that opening get to know Doctor Strange section, there was something thrown exactly at like medium grade nerds. When he's driving in the car, when he's speeding in the rain while texting and booking his next surgery gigs, they say, "We've got an Air Force colonel with a broken back," and he says, "No, who cares?" And if you're a nerd enough to keep up with all these movies, you remember that Colonel Rhodes broke his back in Captain America: Civil War. But so a lesser grade of nerd would not have picked up on that. But a higher grade of nerd would analyze it and find the timeline that couldn't be Rhodes because Doctor Strange was taking a certain amount of time with his recovery and it just didn't fit the timeline.
Dang. So wait. So Peter, I have to ask this. The one that he actually says is interesting right before he gets in the car accident. He's like, there was someone struck by lightning. Was that another kind of Easter egg type thing?
I didn't remember that one.
It's the last one. He says, "Oh, so and so is struck by lightning." He's like, "Oh, that one sounds interesting." Then that's when he gets in the accident.
No, so I was the medium grade nerd because I was like, "Oh, that was Rhodes. He dogged Rhodes. You're supposed to hate him." And then I read something where a guy broke it down. He was actually and broke it down even harder. So I just thought that was funny. But
he one up nerd you.
Yep. Man. Oh, I'm a nerd, but I can be out nerded. Yeah, pretty easily.
You bested my Spaniard, Princess Bride.
The six-fingered man.
That's right.
Yeah. So that's kind of the first act, is kind of the build up and the ramp up. The second act of the movie was kind of all about Stephen Strange learning how to use magic and manipulate magic and trying to overcome his incapacities with his hands, right? For me, I want to say that like the second half, the second act of the movie, I didn't think, how to put this, I didn't think that it went too deep into here's how the magic works, because I think if they would have got too heavy into details, it would have really slowed the pacing of the film down a ton. It just would have made it very unbearable. But it was enough, though, I think, where you were interested in what was going on because they were trying to set up the other character that he's with and kind of laying out some of the story behind the Sorcerer Supreme and kind of what was going on with the kind of the acolytes that stole the pages out of the book. And so like I liked it. I thought it was good, but it was a typical second act, right? It's like, first act is kind of introductory. Second act is, how he's going to learn to do what he needs to do before we get to the third act where we have the conflict that needs to be resolved. But
Great training montage, though, where he's opening portals to steal books behind the librarian's back.
yeah,
That was
a lot of fun.
It's pretty good.
I could have used a little Rocky montage music behind it and seen him with a log over his shoulders doing squats, and that would have worked too.
I think this is kind of the voyage, though, of self-discovery. I think is very Christopher Nolan 2005 Batman Begins. Like Ra's al Ghul-esque. I think at least that's kind of how I felt about it. I think the second act, for me, it felt a little empty, a little hollow. Like, I wish that there maybe would have been a little bit more of maybe not to the tune of Rocky or Survivor, but something more of like a struggle, because it seemed like he was just kind of there, and he was kind of arrogant and egotistical, and then he suddenly learned how to read Sanskrit and read a bunch of books, and then he's good to go, and then he gets the eye and he's going, and I just kind of felt like I know they kept it lighthearted, and I actually appreciated that. That's kind of one of my notes that I took down. I appreciated, as Peter said, kind of some of the lightheartedness and some of the not slapstick jokes, but just they had a lot of humor throughout the film.
The Chuck Mangione joke, in the beginning,
right?
Yeah,
they kind of had that peppered throughout, but I kind of wish they would have taken a little bit more time with that second act and made it seem more of a struggle and really kind of a learning process. I didn't feel like it was. And I felt like it happened over like the course of like a week or something. I'm like, okay.
I think he was there much longer than a week.
The timeline guy said it was multiple years that he was there.
Yeah,
And
that was the impression I
certainly
got.
didn't feel like that watching the movie.
he grew a beard, so we know he was there for years.
He was there for at least
nice.
He was there for at least 2 weeks.
Physically, you see it.
The calendar pages flip, and you're like, oh, okay, he's been there a while.
Wow. Yeah. What did you think second act, Peter?
It follows the formula pretty well. It could have gone on way too long in different hands, but the total runtime was 1 hour and 55 minutes. So none of the parts felt like they dragged on. Second act, you got to meet 2 of my favorite characters in the movie. The Cape, which had more personality than any of the humans.
Yes.
And the little rib cage catcher thing that he put Caecilius in.
Yeah.
That thing was hilarious,
awesome.
and it had him doing like disco stew dances while it trapped him.
Disco stew in my magic hands.
So
it kind of suffered from the problem that's the big complaint about Marvel movies is one-off forgettable villains. And that was really disappointing because Mads Mikkelsen is a great actor and a great villain, and he does a good job. But I saw him and I'm like, oh, he's not going to be back. He's going to be gone. And his acolytes, they don't even talk. They don't even have words. They're just foot soldiers or Cobra soldiers. They're
the foot.
Yeah. So
you idiot.
Creepy black eyes.
The ending, the third act had more, amazing stuff. And the second act, I think the weak part was the disposable villains.
Yep, sure. So the big thing that happens in the third act all revolves around, in the very end, you kind of get to this idea that it comes back to an Infinity Stone, right? I mean, we see the magic, there's time manipulation going on. And come to find out, the Eye of Agamotto is actually a container, a vessel for an Infinity Stone.
Right.
So we have, once again, even though this is a standalone movie, and we've had other standalone movies that really weren't as strongly tied to the upcoming Infinity War, this one, I think this one was more overt and more clear of like, hey, this is going to be featured prominently in Doctor Strange is going to be featured more prominently upcoming because one of these stones is still in possession of the people that originally possessed it, for, time immemorial. Did you guys feel that was like, I don't know, too obvious? Did you need it to be, at this point, did you need that to be still a little more kind of like, we'll find out more about this later on and just like a hint to it? Because I felt like it was pretty out there. What did you guys think? Britta?
I don't know. I think I liked the way they did it. made more of a connection for me, I guess. But I'm kind of a dummy. Like, I didn't realize until the end when he's like, well, you know, we don't want you to just be carrying around an infinity stone the whole time. And I was like, oh, it's an infinity stone. Like, I didn't get it.
Okay.
I feel like an idiot. I know, I should have. After he said that, I was like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But also because, you know, most of the time people aren't carrying around infinity stones because, like we saw in Guardians of the Galaxy, it can completely destroy you and everything. So, I don't know. I thought it was fine. I liked it.
Okay. What about you, Peter? Was it too in your face or not enough?
No, so I knew that the Infinity Gauntlet and the Infinity Stones and Thanos, I knew that those were a really big deal in Marvel Comics history. Like, that was one of the all-time big storylines up there with Dark Phoenix Saga and stuff like that.
Sure.
And I knew that Doctor Strange was a big part of it. So I think it was appropriate to have it be more in your face that, hey, this is Infinity Stone. And it was the first time we got to see somebody use it as opposed to get used by it. Like, Loki had the Infinity Stone in his staff, but all he did was zap at people with it. The Ether from Thor 2 just was the red mist that everybody was fighting over and nobody could do anything with.
Right.
The one from Guardians of the Galaxy blew up people who touched
everything.
it.
Right.
And what was the other one? The Tesseract got put into Vision's forehead. It makes Vision really powerful.
No, the Tesseract was the Loki's staff. It was your
it's like the space stone.
Yeah, the space.
So it can open the portals.
You're thinking of the Mind Stone that was put into Vision in
Division.
in Age of Ultron.
So they were around and they were doing stuff and they were, you know, clearly reservoirs of power, but seeing the way Doctor Strange used the Time Stone to rewind and fast forward through time like he's editing video.
Right.
That was really cool, and I think that's a good indication of what kind of things and what kind of effects and what kind of visuals we'll get to see when they all come into play in the Infinity War movies. Which, for the record, I've been looking forward to them since the first... I don't remember which movie it was after, but when they showed the throne and they showed Thanos turn around and he had his big purple grin... And I was like, oh, I told my wife, I'm like, oh, that's Thanos. Oh my gosh, they're going to do the Infinity War. Oh, this is going to be awesome. She's like, what are you talking about? He's got a big glove and there's rugs. And she's like, oh, okay.
Right.
I think my husband's having a heart attack. What's going on?
It was a 2-second scene that gave me 10 years of anticipation. So well played by them.
So side question, this is a little off topic, but if Thanos gets all the Infinity Stones, when he takes the Mind Stone from the Vision, is that going to kill Vision?
I don't know. I think it's going to be quite a showdown for him to get it, because Vision's pretty tough.
Right.
The Avengers are pretty tough. But I assume he's going to get
That's what I
them
want to
all.
know after seeing...
Right.
After seeing all these, I'm like, I want to see how he's going to take these away now from all these different groups of people, and, like, I hope we get to actually see some of that versus, oh, they've all been taken, now we've got to get them back.
Like, I always knew Thanos was really tough, and he was one of the all-time big bads of the Marvel Universe, but I never read any comics with him, so... I'm interested to see how they're going to do it in the movies.
Right. Well, I think part of it, this is just my speculation, I think part of it's going to be theft. I think that's how he's going to get some of the stones. Because, I mean, we saw...
Probably Loki will be involved.
Yeah, Loki's going to be involved. We saw a clip at the end of... what was it? End of Guardians of the Galaxy, maybe? Where they're with the Collector, and they're entrusting him with one of the stones, and I think that's also Thor entrusted.
They brought the Ether to him.
The Ether there.
And he had the Guardians one as well.
So potentially, you know, the Collector has at least maybe 2 stones.
And Howard the Duck
maybe
was
gets up to... right, Howard the Duck in the background, yeah. So, I mean, there could be a theft, and there could be 2 or 3 stones potentially right there that he gets. We've got a stone that's, you know, in Camartage that Doctor Strange is protecting, and then we got the one that's in Vision. So, I mean, it'll
presumably
it'll
the 6th one will be introduced in Thor Ragnarok this year.
Do you think Thor Ragnarok, or do you think it's going to be Guardians of the Galaxy 2?
I think Thor.
You think Thor?
Because at the end of Doctor Strange, they had Doctor Strange meeting with Thor. And I
Right.
think Doctor Strange is supposed to be in
Odin.
Thor Ragnarok.
So here's the thing, yeah, because let's get to this because it does relate to Doctor Strange. The Thor Ragnarok movie originally was going to be Thor, and then it started leaking out that it's going to be the Hulk's going to be with him, and so it almost kind of seems like they're trying to kind of do Ragnarok with kind of Planet Hulk, which was the big kind of storyline for Hulk in the Hulk series. But then you get this little tidbit that Doctor Strange is going to get involved because you get the little post-credit scene at the end. And I heard, and I don't know how accurate this is, but I heard that Doctor Strange isn't going to be just like a cameo or a little part. He could be in upwards of like 20 to 30% of the movie.
Well, look at how much Iron Man was in Civil War.
Right, exactly.
That wasn't
it
an
wasn't
Avengers movie, but it had
Right.
14 Avengers in it.
Right.
Right. So, I wouldn't be surprised, Peter, if we see the Last Stone in Thor Ragnarok. I also am curious to see if it potentially could be hinted at, maybe in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, just because we don't know much of the story there, and since these are, travelers in space. They could have access to other worlds, and potentially we could see it come up through some sort of travel, or it's in the possession of, Star-Lord's father, or something like it could be, all sorts of different things. But I think we're going to see it this year. I think before the end of the year, whether it's Guardians of the Galaxy 2 or Thor Ragnarok, I think we're going to see the Last Stone, and we're going to have an idea of where everything's at.
Yeah, because isn't the first Infinity War movie coming out next year? 2018?
Yep. 2018.
Mm-hmm.
So.
2018.
So
Running out of time to set it up.
yeah, I mean, I don't know that there's much more to. I mean, there's got to be a little bit more, but I mean, come on, we've got Spider-Man: Homecoming, Thor: Ragnarok, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, that are all coming out this year. Prior to that, I mean, that's 3 movies. They can have this thing done easy.
Plus Justice League.
Right.
Don't forget about DC.
So Doctor Strange was a 90% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I was really excited to hear that, to be perfectly honest, because this is one of those movies like Ant-Man and Doctor Strange, characters I did not read the comic books, and I'm going to guess that probably weren't widely read anyway or widely known prior to these movies, but it still got a really great review from critics. It got, really positive reviews. I think it was 90% fresh from critics and like 87% from the normal viewing public. That seems still really high to me. What do you guys think? Is that high to you, or do you think that was too high or maybe a little too low?
Well, it's like you said about Marvel consistently delivering on their formula. Marvel makes sure that every part of the movies that they put out is pretty good. But the flip side is they tend to be very similar. They tend to be very repetitive structure, theme, timing, beats, and this is no different. The way I feel about this is, if I hadn't seen the same structure of movie 8 other times before from Marvel, this would have been, an all-time great movie for the ages. But when it's the 9th time you've seen it, it's not as fresh.
Sure.
Even though it is a perfectly well-executed movie. The way I felt about this was kind of the same way I felt about The Force Awakens. Which was, we know that this is familiar.
A New Hope.
We know that this is hitting the same beats. But what I feel like the job The Force Awakens had to do was reassure people that Star Wars movies could be good again. And then that set the stage to do more new and original things after that. And I feel like what Doctor Strange had to do was say, hey, we know Robert Downey Jr. has made $1 billion in the last 10 years, and he's not going to be playing Iron Man forever. But we've got a new, powerful leader-type character who's fun and is cool, and your kids are going to want to dress up like him, we've got a new focal point for the Marvel Cinematic Universe if Iron Man and or Robert Downey Jr. drops out.
He also has a sweet goatee.
Just like Iron Man.
That's right.
Yep. Well,
The
and
formula
it's
works.
Benedict Cumberbatch. I mean, is there a more desired actor right now? I mean, Benedict Cumberbatch is in everything.
You know, it's funny that Peter mentions, you know, as we're talking about the movie itself, you know, the cape as one of his favorite stars, and I would say the other maybe a little bit less, you know, less prominent was Mads Mikkelsen's eyeshadow. I think that really should have kind of gotten its own line, its own line on the credits. Good golly.
Eyeshadow artist to Mr. Mickelson.
Right. I thought you know, speaking of the question, I guess, about its ratings, it's you know, Rotten Tomato ratings, I think that it can stand on its own. And I think it's not one that you have to, you know, because I actually saw, you know, Captain America Civil War before I saw Winter Soldier. And so I was kind of like, you know, there were some things
very confusing.
Yeah, exactly. There were some things that I'm like, what the freak? Like what, you know, and I missed, and I had to go back. But
Who's this metal arm guy?
Exactly. That's exactly.
Right.
Like, there's apparently some kind of history here. But anyway, so I think that, you know, Doctor Strange maybe got a little bit of a boost because it had the ability to stand on its own, and I thought it was a fairly fresh story. And while the beats, the cadence, the formula, the 1, 2, 3 acts were fairly formulaic, I still think that, you know, it was visually, you know, stimulating. It had kind of what I saw in one review say spatial origami, and you know, I thought that was unique. It took, I think, Inception to a different level than what we've seen in CGI. I think it had a little bit of the trippiness with the, you know, the outside worlds, the dark world, but
the hands on hands on hands on hands.
That was like
right.
It's funny because there's always like, what were we watching?
That'd be good for back scratching.
we were watching Moana last weekend, and I think I might have mentioned this, but it's funny that like every single movie has to have some weird trippy scene. Like when they go down and they're with like that snail, the crab that's got like, hey, I'm glittery and stuff. Yeah, and it gets all psychedelic. I'm like, that happened in that. Huffalumps and Woozles in Winnie the Pooh. It had you Dumbo.
That one's trippy.
You know, Elephants on Parade.
Yeah, Pink Elephants on Parade.
Who's ever seen Raggedy Ann and Andy? Remember that junk? They get in this one where there's like this gloopy goopy like thing, and they're all, I mean, sometime, some way, some like art director is like smoking like a little bit of LSD, and he's like, wait, I got a great idea, guys. Like late one night in the production room. No, check this out. Go with me on this. It happened here too. Fingers on fingers, hands on hands. But anyway, so I think the standalone nature of it kind of gave it a boost with audiences.
I love that you brought Tamatoa into this conversation.
Tamatoa hasn't always been this glam. I was a drab little crab once.
Crab yachts.
Oh gosh, that was weird. I was watching
So
like
shiny, shine like a diamond in the sea.
We're elbows deep in Moana in my house. So
yeah, we just got in. We were just dipping.
Us two, we were just watching it tonight.
A toe in, and I was like, that is crazy.
I'm sprouting tattoos as we speak. I'm Maui in the household because of scale.
Shut your mouth, you'll sleep in my armpit tonight.
Yeah.
Let's fatten you up,
young
drumstick.
kids love that. Boat snack.
Boat snack.
Back to Steve's point, I kind of wanted to mention something I was thinking about, where, you know, you were talking about how the formula, you know, basically is the same as some of the other movies, and I agree with that. But like Steve was saying, like, just as a one-off movie, like, it stands on its own. And something that actually hit me today, like, it just all of a sudden clicked with me today, was that, which maybe I'm an idiot and I should have seen this before, but this movie actually has an overarching theme, which I feel like most of the superhero movies usually don't. They're, you know, pretty basic and everything, I feel like. But this one, you know, it really is, you see this overarching theme of time. So from the beginning, like the very first scene, you know, like he's in surgery or whatever, and he hears someone's watch ticking.
Yeah.
And then you see when he's getting ready to go out the night that he gets in the car accident, he's got this whole
All the watches.
display of all these fancy watches.
drawer.
Spinning.
Yep, picks his one watch that he wants to wear, and then he carries that watch with him. So if you notice when his, so like they're always ticking and moving and everything, and then when he has his accident, his watch breaks and stops, and that's the watch that he keeps with him through the rest of the movie till he goes to Camartage, and he lays that broken watch on the window, and then he starts to learn all this stuff and learn the magic, and then, oh, what does he get? He gets a new fancy watch called an Infinity Stone that controls time. And then that's when it starts moving again. He controls time. And it really just hit me today. I was just like, oh my gosh, I get it. Like, it's this whole thing, and you see it go from ticking to stopping to ticking again, kind of a thing. And when he finally has confidence in himself again and has a purpose in life is when the time starts moving
I didn't
again.
even pick up on the time thing.
So.
I saw him bringing the watch with him, and I just thought it was a symbol of him being broken. And he put the watch on and said, okay, I'm not broken
Well, I think
anymore,
it's that
but-
as well.
Yeah, there's so many time
me
things.
too. Yeah,
So much about time
I'm with
starting
you,
and
Peter.
stopping.
I looked at it as like, hey, I'm broken. I'm setting this watch here to remind me that I'm not a whole individual. I was along that line, but Britta, that's actually a
Nailed it.
pretty good observation. Yeah. I mean,
Well, and going along with that, one of the lines that I wrote down was when his astro body is that what it's called? Yeah. Meets with
the astral form.
the astroglide
Astral form,
meets with the Celtic sorcerer, and they're talking in the balcony, and she says this line which I thought was really beautiful. She says, "Death is what gives life meaning. To know your days are numbered." And I kind of thought about that, and I'm almost hitting 40 here, and it's kind of a time that you start to kind of think about things like that in life, and it really is true. Like, she talked about how she was seemingly immortal, not really, but she had elongated her days, but it only came to that moment when she was at death's door that she came to understand that it really is.
Who wants to live forever?
Who wants to live forever?
I was just thinking of the Highlander all of a sudden. No, I'm with you, Steve. There's let's tie this back into what Britta just said. I mean, she's saying that, death gives life meaning. You need to have that time counting, because at that point in the story, he set down his watch, right? Time for him is stopped. Time is not ticking by for him because he measured everything in time. He was kind of frozen in that moment, and she's using that frozen moment in time to show him that he needs to move on and he needs to have control over time and let time continue to start clicking again for him to move forward with his purpose.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons that I really enjoyed this movie more, because it felt a little deeper than some of the other superhero movies, Do
you guys just realize that we've referenced Inception a time or two, and I think Britta just incepted us right here on this podcast.
I think we should just end the podcast with a spinning top.
Which would work out
because everyone on
visually.
the podcast can see
really
that.
great for a podcast.
You'll hear it.
Oh, wow.
So I had a couple little points I wanted to say about Doctor Strange.
Go.
Do it.
So I don't know if this means anything in Marvel continuity or the cinematic universe, or if it just looks really cool on screen. But in the scene where he's a ghost and he's fighting the ghost, and he has Rachel McAdams zap him with the defibrillator, and he uses that electricity to zap the other guy. That reminded me of when Thor would shoot his lightning at Captain America's shield, who would then shoot it at all the other bad guys. I don't know if sharing electricity is a thing, using somebody else's electricity as a weapon is a thing, or if it just looks really cool.
No, it's like energy transfer.
It's teamwork.
Teamwork.
Light to light another.
Science.
It looks cool, though. It really does look
the light of mine.
Also, I always love when a character's name is the same name as the actor. And the librarian guy, Wong, the actor's name is Benedict Wong.
Yes.
Right.
So
Yeah.
shout out to people who don't want to use a different name. And then
Like half the cast of The Office.
and then my favorite
Yep.
typecasting of all time is that Rachel McAdams keeps getting paired romantically with time-traveling men. This was her fourth one.
Yes,
The
that's
Time Traveler's Wife,
true.
Midnight in Paris, About Time, and now Doctor Strange.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
So
Yep.
Dang.
Yep.
she's probably getting tired of it, but also there's probably other actresses like, I could totally date a time traveler. Why don't they ever cast me in this? Darn you, Rachel McAdams taking those time
Give me
traveling
a
She's
romance
chance.
getting
parts.
tired of everything about it.
That sweet, sweet time traveling romance women.
That's right.
Yeah. So something about Wong I want to go back to real quick is I read this because I didn't read these comics, but in the comics, they kind of did some role reversals here because the Sorcerer Supreme was, I mean, Tilda Swanson, she's about as pale gets. And that's not kind of how it is in the comics. Wong, though, in the comics is a very kind of stereotypical, like, he's a tea-serving manservant to Doctor Strange. And I like that originally I think they weren't going to include Wong in the movie, but they included him in, but they didn't make him just like some, throwaway. He was actually a real fleshed out character. He was the librarian, the protector of the sacred tomes, and he actually had a purpose. And I like that. I mean, I like that they decided to let's kind of get away from stereotypes. Let's not make it exactly as stereotypical as it was in the comics. Flesh it out, give it a little bit more, and make it substance. And I like that because I feel like Marvel, for the most part, tries to make their actors, even the smaller actors, have substance. Like I go back to Ant-Man, and you have Scott Lang's, former cellmate, and it's not just like a one-liner or a two-liner, and then he's just kind of in the background. It's he's there. They made him really funny. They gave him, man, I was talking to this girl down at the 7-Eleven, and she said that her boyfriend said that he was talking with his homeboy that he used to play down basketball down by the way, and they gave him, he had a role, he fulfilled that role story-wise, but they also gave him humor and gave him something that made him memorable. And I felt that they did that with Wong. He wasn't a forgettable character. You remember him.
Then he whipped out that big beating mace at the end.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Yeah.
You were going to get his books.
He laughed. I love when he laughed. He's like, that was funny. That was good. So
your name's just Wong, like Beyonce?
and then he's listening to Beyonce like the next scene when he gets
right.
the book
I
stolen.
love that. It's a little throwback, but I loved that.
Yeah, I loved it. So two things I want to say. So I read somewhere that Tilda Swanson, who is the Celtic sorcerer, obviously in the movie, the screenwriter Robert Cargill had said that the sorcerer originally from the story was from Tibet, but they changed it because they were worried that the depictions of Tibetans might anger China, and China is a movie marketing powerhouse, and they did not want to do that.
I can see that.
Yeah. And then the second thing I thought was just interesting. So you saw the Stan Lee cameo when they were bending time and space, and he was in the bus, right? And laughed and whatnot. The standard kind of Stan Lee cameo. I'm wondering though, why doesn't Steve Ditko ever get some cameos, man? What the freak? Open that junk up.
Well, I think a big part of that is that even going back into the 60s and 70s, Stan Lee was the face of Marvel. I mean, he really was, and he he had a show and all this other stuff. So I think that it makes sense to show Stan Lee, because at this point, if Steve Ditko had a cameo, who is going to know who Steve Ditko is except for comic
I just got to
book
say,
readers?
Stan Lee, let Britta play the Wii. That's what this is all about. Just let Steve Ditko have a little piece of the pie, man. Cameo hog.
I mean, he's a creator of Spider-Man
Steve.
and Doctor Strange, but
Peter, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was going to say, nerds tend to go very heavily on the being pedantic, so I'm going to correct so that everybody doesn't have to email or tweet. It's Tilda Swinton, not Swenson.
yes.
Thank you. I was going to say that myself.
Smith
Just 'cause
Samsonite.
he's Swanson, I'm like,
way
Simi,
off.
Swami.
Come on, guys.
Yeah. So
I did
so-
like I saw a picture where somebody took the guy from the Iron Fist and then Tilda Swinton as the Ancient One, and it had them next to each other, and it said "Protecting Marvel Movies from Asian Actors."
Right. Let's go around the room here, if we will. Britta, Doctor Strange, would you recommend this to a friend? Would you recommend this to family? How likely are you to be excited for Thor Ragnarok with Doctor Strange and Doctor Strange 2?
Yes, absolutely. I would recommend it. I already have recommended it to family and friends and made them watch it with me. So, yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. Especially in the Marvel world, it's, just different enough for me that this is one of my favorites so far, I think. And what was the other part of the question?
Are you excited for Doctor Strange and Thor Ragnarok?
Oh, yeah.
Strange 2.
Yeah. Are you kidding me?
Benedict, I know. Come on.
Yeah, Benedict Cumberbatch and, oh my gosh, I just spaced his name. Chris Hemsworth together in one movie. Yeah, I'm so there.
Yeah.
I'm so there.
As long as Chris...
Plus, I love their characters. They're super awesome.
Yeah, sure. Peter.
Yeah, absolutely. I would recommend this movie on its own. It's an enjoyable, fun, action-packed, exciting movie. And I think that as the Marvel Cinematic Universe grows and grows, this will be seen as a good jumping-in point for people to get into the Phase 3 and leading up to the Infinity War.
I agree. Steve.
So I will always mispronounce actors' names, as Peter has so poignantly pointed out. So Benedict Cumberbatch is... No, I'm just kidding.
That's the one name that can't be pronounced correctly.
That's right. I think in this movie he is as steely and sharp as the surgical instruments in which he probes damaged brains. And I think that his character kind of gives us another version of Robert Downey Jr. I really liked his character here. I thought he did a great job. I thought the movie was different visually. I thought the story was fresher, and I thought the lighthearted kind of humor was well peppered in. It made it not a slog through. So I would definitely give it 2 thumbs up.
I would definitely recommend this to friends and family. I agree with every one of you. I think it stands up on its own as a movie. But then in the greater Marvel Cinematic Universe, I think it ties in very nicely. I'm really excited to see Thor Ragnarok. I was already excited. I love The Incredible Hulk and I love Thor. But Doctor Strange added into the mix. I'm excited. I want to see Strange 2 on Stranger Tides. I don't know whatever they're going to call it.
It's going to be a Doctor Strange, Stranger Things mashup.
There you go. Strange upside down world things with Barb. I don't know, something. They'll figure a title out. I'm not a title maker. But listen, the movie made $667 million worldwide. I think it's a hit, and I think the box office says it's a hit as well. So
yeah, but the box office says the same thing about DC movies, so take it with a grain of salt.
And Suicide Squad won an Academy Award. What is the world coming to?
Golly. So Peter, are you excited for the spin-off from Doctor Strange called The Cape? It's just going to be about his cape.
If they put out some animated shorts or some YouTube videos like they did with Thor and his roommate Daryl.
Oh my god,
that would be awesome.
Would be great.
Where it's doing all these like odd jobs around the house, because it's it was drying his tears at one point in the movie. That'd be hilarious.
It's like going with them on dates and stuff.
Right.
Yeah. So Doctor Strange, I think, is a big hit. My question of the week is this, and we'll go around real quick. We're introducing magic into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. If you're in the MCU, what magical ability would you like to have? Let's start with Steve. Steve, what magical ability, if you were in the MCU, would you like to have?
I've always wanted to
get to things on time.
You cut me, Shrek. You cut me real deep just then. Yeah, I pretty much like
it's funny
the same thing that
true.
Doctor Strange. I'd like to be able to make an apple, disintegrate and turn moldy and turn back time so I can be on time to my podcast. Yeah, that'd be great.
If I could turn back time.
Do you know the visual that puts in my mind as an 8th grade boy watching Cher on a battleship? Please, man. Please don't do that to me. If I could
know what it does to you.
find a way. So either
Peter.
turning back time or rabbit out of a hat. I'd love to be able to do that.
I'm not picky. I would be fine to get one of those sling rings and the circle hands to avoid traveling, to make travel faster.
I like that. Britta?
Nice. Okay, so I want Mary Poppins magic. I want to be able to snap my fingers and have the house clean itself.
Ooh.
With 2 little toddlers, that would be so
I don't want the
useful.
Sword in the Stone version, though, because that turned into a mess.
Right.
That's true.
Or the Sorcerer's Apprentice version as well. For me, I think I would love the ability to be invisible. Like, to be able to use like a sling ring and make myself invisible. I think that could be used to nefarious purposes, which is probably what I would do with it. But yeah, I like the idea of invisibility, bending light around me, so I could, I don't know, sneak out of the house and go see a movie without being seen that I was sneaking out of the house to go see a movie.
I can see you sending your astral projection form into the Marvel script writing rooms, like, I knew it.
Yes. So this is how they're going to resolve Spider-Man: Homecoming. Aha!
But if you had to
the
sneak out of the house using your invisibility powers, wouldn't you have to be naked? And if so, by doing, wouldn't you have to sit on theater seats with bare bum? Do you know how many butts have sat in those seats?
I think you're going a little too literal with this, Steve. I am magic. I have the ability to make my clothes invisible
it's like
as well.
the,
Thank you.
invisibility cloak in Harry Potter.
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're a wizard, Harry.
To get a juju beat out of where the sun don't shine, that would be.
Well, once again, let's move away from jujubes and butt cracks.
How many times have you had to move away from that?
Way more times than we will need to talk about.
Cricket.
Guys, we love doing this. We love getting together and talking. Peter, thank you so much for joining us as we had the ability to talk about Doctor Strange. Britta, once again, thank you for joining us on the movie club.
Always a pleasure.
It's wonderful having both of you here.
Very fun.
Thank you.
We get to do this once a week. Let's keep the laughs and the good times rolling. You can find us in all the normal places. You can Google on iTunes. Let your friends know. And we'll keep doing this. So, Steve, send us on out, my man.
May the force be with you. Always.